How did that happen? And how did you become so fluent in that language? Is that something you picked up or studied, or how did that happen?
Kind of advice you give any business entrepreneur. As you grow, you are not going to be the smartest guy in the room, but you better quickly
Right,
find the smartest guy in the room, right? And so
right.
if operations is not your expertise, or finance isn't your expertise, or sales marketing, just kind of pick some of those different things within business that are very important.
Right.
You better find the right people.
What are some things like that you intentionally made decisions on that have changed the course of how you operate today?
You have key decisions just about every month, right?
Right.
There's key
Right.
decisions in business, and some are bigger than others. But, for us, it was in the beginning, supply has always been the king for organic, and we always needed to develop great relationships for a supply base.
Hey, welcome back to the show. And I am so excited to have with us the chief uncle of Uncle Matt's Juices. Hey, Matt, would you tell us who you are and what do you do?
Yeah, first off, thanks for having me on today, Todd. I appreciate the opportunity to tell my story. So I am Matt McLean, founder and chief uncle of Uncle Matt's Organic. We are America's #1 selling organic orange juice brand. We're sold nationwide from Alaska to Hawaii to Maine to even Puerto Rico. You can find us in over 15,000
Nice.
stores. Yep, we were founded in June of 1999, so we're celebrating 25 years in business this year.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And what type of juices are you juicing? Like what's going on in the business?
Yeah, so our #1 seller, our flagship item is just pulp-free organic orange juice. So liquid
Is that
gold.
right?
Yeah, that's it. Pretty simple, but we've since expanded a lot from there. We do, lemonades, we do punches, we even do tea now as well. So yeah,
Nice.
we do quite a lot of different items, but we're still primarily known for our organic, delicious tasting orange juice.
Awesome. And so what inspired you in 1999? Everyone else was thinking .com tech booming
Yeah,
industry and you decided to go to juice. Walk us through
yeah.
that.
Well, so it's a little bit in my blood. I'm a fourth generation Florida citrus grower. I grew up in
Nice.
Florida. We're here in Central Florida, just west of Orlando. I'm about 20 minutes from Disney World. We used to be
Okay.
surrounded by citrus groves everywhere, but now we're surrounded by homes. The agriculture has changed. The environment's changed quite a lot. We had freezes, devastating freezes in the 80s that wiped out a lot of the citrus. And since then, they've replaced it with a lot of homes. But so it was in my blood to be in
Darn.
the citrus industry. And
Yeah.
I wound up pretty easy going into the juice business as a natural from that upbringing.
I mean that makes sense. When grandpa and his dad all were juicers, it kind of makes sense.
Right. So they grew up growing oranges. I loved as a kid. I worked in the groves a lot, and I would sit there with my dad. He would grab a fresh orange right off the tree, and he's got this perfect way with his knife that he can just cut it ever so correctly, and then he cores out the top, and you sit there, squeeze it, and drink it right from the orange in the grove. So I was hooked as a
Okay, that
kid, and
sounds awesome.
yeah, it's pretty neat. He takes a lot of pride in being able to take his really sharp grove knife and peel almost all of the peel off of the orange in one string without it breaking.
Well, there you go. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's definitely something in your blood. You've been born and raised on juicing. I do think it's funny the timing because I remember 1999 very well in trying to build a startup myself at the time,
Mm.
trying to hit the .com boom, and here I've had 20 businesses since then, and you're still
Oh,
plugging away doing the family biz. I think it's awesome.
yeah. We have gone up, down, and around. In any business to be survive for 25 years, there's been a lot of good days and bad days, but overall, we averaged out above, which is great.
Fantastic. I love it. So walk us through the business side of this because I think a lot of people think of anything agriculture related as being very non-technical, very kind of boring. They sell to maybe a couple, their supplier for maybe a couple different buyers. but
Hmm.
you've got this amazing online presence, and I love like you're using puns, you're using great marketing, you've got some really cool stuff going on. How did you grow and acclimate to the tech side of ag?
So I was really fortunate early on. I married my creative designer wife, and
There you
so
go.
that is the brilliance behind Uncle Matt's. She still runs our marketing today and does all of our creative design work. So it literally, if you see
I love it.
graphics on our label, it came out of her. Our logo design, it came from her. So I was blessed early on to have that dynamic duo within Uncle Matt's, and so we've
That's
continued
awesome.
to lean on her. And as the company's grown, she's got a lot more talent on her team. But it's fun. We like to have fun. I love to laugh. I don't take
Right.
myself too serious. We love the product that we make. We have a wonderful vision of where we want to go with Uncle Matt's. And every day we
Right.
wake up, we go against Tropicana and simply two large brands, kind of Coke and Pepsi. So you're just
Totally.
this little challenger, and the Rocky music is always playing in the background. So who doesn't want to be part of that, right?
I love it. I love it. No, it's fantastic. And I take it that the growth is as organic as your business, right?
Correct. Correct. I mean, we have a very small marketing budget. If my wife was here, she would be like, "Yeah, you can't believe how much we do with so little money." So
I
it is
love
a
it.
lot of it's a lot of word of mouth, and we're pretty scrappy on social media where you don't have to spend as much money, and we do a lot
Totally.
on pack. So where our real estate is fairly inexpensive and free. But yeah,
Love
that's
it.
a lot of guerrilla marketing with not a lot of dollars. But one
I
thing
love it.
that gets us great word of mouth is you have to have a product that is consistently great. And so
Right.
that's what we really focus on is so when you open that bottle of juice, you go, wow, this is fantastic tasting. You'll buy again and then refer it to a friend. And so that's really, we focus
Love
the
it.
most time, energy, and effort in being consistently great with every juice bottle that we put out there.
I love it. I think it is refreshing to hear a business like yours that has taken such an organic approach to growth, and what a blessing it is to have married a wife that is the creative director and just loves to get into that because she's done an amazing job. As I did some backstory research on your brand, I thought, wow, he must have a really awesome marketing department. And it sounds like, when you're, when you know the creative director that well, it kind of works out pretty good, I'm guessing.
It does great as long as I stay out of it.
Fair
I love
enough.
it.
Fair
I
enough.
I love I love to get in there and like, hey, let's talk about this ad or let's talk about this design and boy, the tension. He's all of a sudden like, oh, there's tension in the room. She
I
just
love
kind of
it.
knows like, oh, here we go. You're gonna come in and try and drive the bus. Stay
I
in your
love it.
lane, buddy. And so I just kind of chuckle and take a couple steps back and let her do her thing.
Well, along with that, I mean, in terms of staying in your lane, this is you are the Uncle Matt, you're the chief uncle, you got all this fun branding going with that side of it, but there is a whole different side that I'm guessing a lot of our listeners have no idea how it works.
Hmm.
Your juice, you grew up in the orange orchards, but you're offering now tons of different fruits and
Right.
tons of different varieties of juices that you juice.
Hmm.
Tell us about that process of selecting from different farmers, and how does that
Yeah.
relationship work between you and other ag guys who may
Yep.
be better off selling to a Simply or some of
Yep.
these bigger companies, and here they are working with you.
Well, so one thing about us is we really care about quality, right? I mean, that's the first thing. So we want to buy the best and we want to work with the best.
Right.
And as growers ourselves, we can relate with citrus growers, we can relate with other fruit
Sure.
growers, and we kind of talk their language around organic and farming. And so
Yeah.
I'm genuinely interested in their farming practices. I'm genuinely interested in different regions around the world and how they can grow anything from a pineapple that we use to a turmeric root that we'll put in to
Right.
ginger, all of those things. We look for the best quality ingredients, and then obviously farmers that we think go above and beyond and have premium products that we can source from. So they look at
I
us
love it.
and kind of see a reflection somewhat of themselves. And
Right.
then they see our brand and what we've accomplished and say, yeah, I want to be part of that. I want to be plugged into somebody that's
Right.
really growing the category, that's pushing the envelope in innovation with functional ingredients and other items
Love
that
it.
are new in that refrigerated case. So it's been fun because every year we get a little bigger, we have a little bit more following and a little bit more recognition, and
Yeah,
to some extent, our job becomes easier when we get introduced to a new grower or a new supplier because
sure.
it's pretty easy. A lot of them have heard of us now. So
That's
where
awesome.
before it was, hey, look at me, I'm this little tiny guy. Trust me, you want to work with me, please, please, please.
I am so glad you're here, and I just wanted to take a few seconds to tell you about a program that we have assembled with a lot of our podcast guests and a lot of people who are listening to the show who are feeling the same way that they do. There's a recurring theme. You'll hear a lot of these founders talk about, I couldn't have done it without my team. I couldn't have done it without a support group of peers. I couldn't have done it without having someone to talk to that understood my feeling of isolation as an operator of my business. You see, you're not alone. It is hard running a business, and it's even harder when you know you can't express all your deepest concerns and frustrations with your executive team. It makes them nervous. It gets them scared. You don't want scared people on your executive team. So where do you turn? The Captain's Council is where you turn. The Captain's Council, it is an organization that we are put together with podcast guests, as well as people who are listening who are in the same boat. You see, peers are the only ones that can give you the type of empathy, the type of advice that only a founder or operator know and understand. Go check it out at captainscouncil.com. I know you're going to love what you see there. We have put together an organizational structure that has small group settings, a global community of founders and operators, as well as monthly and quarterly in-person events. You're going to love what you see there. I can't wait for you to check it out and enjoy the rest of this episode.
It's not as hard.
Totally.
Mhm.
Totally. Well, and I mean, along with that, my mind's racing everywhere because my first junior college I went to out of high school was deep in the potato farmlands of Idaho. And
Yeah,
so we would do a lot of case studies in my econ classes and things like that with the farmers because that was the industry around us all the time.
sure.
And so, one of the big problems I saw with the Idaho guys was that the land acquisition, the farming techniques, the equipment, like all those things,
Mhm.
all the farmers knew really, really well. But it was the integration with technology and in your case, logistics,
Mhm.
shipping, bottling, pick and pack, like all the different parts and pieces that you've got to now deal with outside of just farming your orchards.
Yeah. Yep.
How did that happen? And how did you become so fluent in that language? Is that something you picked up or studied, or how did that happen?
So, kind of advice you give any business entrepreneur as you grow, you are not going to be the smartest guy in the room, but you better quickly
Right,
find the smartest guy in the room, right? And so,
right.
if operations is not your expertise, or finance isn't your expertise, or sales marketing, just kind of pick some of those different things within business that are very important.
Right.
You better find the right people. So we were fortunate, to find good people that have experience in those areas, and then teach them what we know and give them the same kind of passion and guardrails that we look for with Uncle Matt's, and then let them do their job and encourage them and give them good goals to meet and go after. So we've been fortunate that way. You have to stay nimble. We still deal with Mother Nature every year. One big
Right.
issue we had in Florida is we have citrus greening disease, and that is a little bacterial infection spread by a little bug, and it has pretty much wiped out a large portion of our citrus industry. And us in
Wow.
particular, we used to have farmed 1,500 acres all ourselves that we took care of with 35 different growers, including our own acreage. And then
Wow.
this bug showed up in 2015, and it rapidly changed our whole game.
Holy
So now
cow.
today we have about 75 acres left that is strictly for research to try and find a cure for this little
Is that
bug and
right?
its bacteria that it causes. Yeah. But in that time frame,
Holy
we
cow.
had to immensely pivot and we had to
Yeah.
source from other organic growers that we had worked with and known from Texas and California and Mexico, and now even further beyond that to keep up with
Wow.
demand and high quality supplies. So
That's
you have to
insane.
learn you have to learn a lot of different expertise, and so purchasing, operations, and logistics to really get stuff here on a timely basis, because we're pretty much a just-in-time operation. It's perishable product.
I
We
believe it.
make it,
Yeah.
we got to ship it, we got to sell it. It doesn't sit on the dock very long. It's not hot
No.
filled. It's not shelf stable. I mean, this is high quality premium stuff. So everything is a just-in-time model. If I had to do it over again, as that young and dumb entrepreneur in the very beginning, I would have said maybe you should try shelf stable. Give yourself a little
Right.
bit
Right.
more time. I may still have a bigger head of hair, you know.
Right. 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 No, I get it. I get it. No, the problems you're describing are very, very interesting. You know, a lot of our listening audience is kind of in this stage of, hey, I've launched my business. I kind of know what I'm doing now. Now it's time to get into a growth stage, and you
Yeah.
kind of hit that a long time ago. But
Hmm.
walk us back a little bit into, were there some key decisions along the way? I mean, I got to imagine most of your decisions came from what you just described. Mother Nature dealt you a bad hand and you had to figure a way around it. but
Right.
but what are some things like that you intentionally made decisions on that have changed the course of how you operate today?
Yeah. I mean, you you have key decisions just about every month, right?
Right.
There's key
Right.
decisions in business, and some are bigger than others. But for us, it was in the beginning. Supply has always been the king for organic, and we always needed to develop great relationships for a supply base. We started
Right.
doing it early on to build our own supply base in Florida. From there, we had to pivot. Now we're literally building a global supply base. And so
Right.
finding the right people to partner with, finding the right employees that can help you build that global
Yeah.
supply base, that's a key
Right.
one for us. The other key thing along the way is, which channels to focus on, which sales channel, right? So
Right.
in food, we have a variety of different channels you can focus on. You can focus on food service, which
Yeah.
is hotels, schools, restaurants. You can focus on
Totally.
retail, right? So the Walmart, the Publix, the Kroger, Whole Foods, those guys. You could focus
Sure.
on convenience, the 7-Elevens and all those guys. So there's a multiple channels there, and they all have their different issues and problems
Nuances. Yeah.
and nuances.
Totally.
And so we just decided, hey, we want to be the organic version of one of the larger brands. We want to be that organic premium version of
Right.
Tropicana or Simply. And so we stayed in the retail side, and then you have to figure out from that retail side, do you start regionally, locally? Do
Yeah.
you try and go after a national, Whole Foods guy and try and get a national? So you really have to be focused so you don't have a shotgun blast and you go out to too many
Sure.
places. It either depletes your cash if you're not ready for that kind of growth, or you got to have to pay slotting to get into the retail
Right.
doors. You have to be prepared and really manage your cash and be focused on which channel, which direction, and then lean into it. Make sure that's your
Right.
product. That's my expertise. I'm doing this. In the
Right.
beginning, once I had a little success with Uncle Matt's with orange juice, I thought, well, maybe I can do milk. Maybe I could do
Yeah.
baby food. Maybe this brand could be, massive.
Totally.
And it wastes a lot of time, energy, and
Yeah.
effort, where your competition can quickly, if they are focused, they
Swoop
take the right
in.
account. They go in and they
Yeah.
get on that shelf in front of you because you were chasing some other shiny ball. So, just staying
Right.
focused on, really laser focused on what you do best and where your market
Right.
niche is, where you have the competitive advantage, and then really stay focused on that.
I love it. I love it. And you're right. Shiny object syndrome is so real, and
Big time.
you could probably justify 1,000 reasons why baby food makes sense when you've got all these organic growers giving you product, and
Right.
you know what I mean. Like I could see your mind just going down that pathway, thinking, "This is it, honey. We're gonna
Yeah.
make it huge here."
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So you have to
So
really,
so
we have to do the old inch mile deep is what they
Right,
tell you,
right,
and really
right.
try and stay in that lane. And if it doesn't work, then be able to pivot into, well, maybe that's not what the customer really wanted, and can I do something closer or more adjacent to it in near the category? Maybe that's better.
Smart, smart. That's great advice. Was there an example specifically? Like, were you able to reach retail distribution pretty easily, or what was kind of the first big win looking back that broadened your ability to distribute?
Yeah, so for me, the first when I started Uncle Matt's, I needed to run 600 cases. That was my minimum run, okay? And I had
Yeah,
about
yeah.
2 weeks. I had about 2 weeks to move it out of the warehouse because I only had a 60-day shelf life. And
Right. That's
the
crazy.
retailer asked for so much time. They needed the most time to get it through their store. And so I
Yeah.
really had to be able to move that volume. And I started with some produce distributors and selling to the organic produce sets. And then I also
Makes
found
sense.
a local health food chain that had called Chamberlain's. They had about, I think, 12 stores. They brought it in. And then I had another small
Awesome.
supermarket chain locally called Goodings. And between the three of them, I had just enough business to make it through that 600 cases every time, just barely. Right. So then I had
That's
to really
awesome.
so I kept chipping away, kept chipping away. I found a good broker, a good sales broker
Yeah.
that then helped me get it in many more independent Chamberlain type stores up and down the East Coast. So I started expanding
Cool.
my distribution with them. And so I was,
Cool.
continue to sell more and more. And then I got my big break. The big break was Publix. I had been calling on them for 2 years, wearing that poor buyer out, come on,
Right.
I'm the local guy shopping Publix, blah, blah, blah.
Right. Right.
The guy
Right.
he should have filed a restraining order against me, but he was very calm. He was very understanding. Raul Garcia, he was just a heck of a nice guy. He was
Right.
firm, but he was very patient with me because we did have a good product, but he had another
Yeah.
product in there already that was organic. It was an orange juice brand, and that company got out of the business. And so
Whoa.
there was an opportunity, and I had been knocking on that door for 2 years. And I'll never forget, it was on 9/11. So literally a bad day.
Really?
The twin towers, the first tower had collapsed. Raul
Wow.
Garcia calls me on the phone and says, "Hey Matt, on a really bad day, I've got some really good news for you." And I was kind of
Wow.
in shock from, both emotions, like, really high and really low. Like, wow. And
Right.
I knew I'll never forget this day for many reasons. And still, every 9/11, I
Right.
remember both the high and the low. But
Oh
that
my
was my big win
gosh.
because that was 1,000 stores at that time, and that then gave me the economy scale, really put me on the map. And I've never looked back since then. From there, we got Whole Foods nationwide, you got Kroger nationwide, you got a couple other big wins, and they just kept having success and going one plateau after the next.
I love it. I love it. No, that is awesome. I definitely remember that day where I was and what happened, and I'm
Yeah,
impressed you answered your phone. I remember. Yeah, I just remember that day being so chaotic, and I got
oh,
to
it's
think that
terrible.
that as an emotional day already, and then you
Yeah.
get that call. That must have been so awesome.
I had one employee, and that one employee she was from New York
Yeah,
City, and she started crying, and I was like,
I'm
"Oh my gosh,
sure.
I'm so sorry. You need to go home. You need to go home, call your
Yeah.
family, get in touch with them." So there was nobody to even answer the phone except me. My one employee had gone home, and I was like,
That's awesome.
"Hello, Uncle Matt." So yeah.
Matt, that's awesome. I love that story. Now with that, I got to imagine going from a few stores here and there to 1,000 stores brought a whole new set of problems. Would you mind
Yep.
sharing, like, kind of what kind of things did you not expect? I'm sure you kind of had in your head this vision of like, we're going big, we're going national. And
Yeah.
then now you're all of a sudden hit with new batches of problems. Walk us through some of that.
Well, so the next step is, so how do you source that much, right? I mean, at that
Right.
time, I was probably selling to at most, I don't know, 400, maybe 500 total stores. And then suddenly
Yeah.
I had, 1,000, and the 1,000 was
Yeah.
Publix. So, all of a sudden, like, whoa, a lot more supply. So I had to really ramp up purchasing get to my grower group, like, hey, can we supply this? Yep. Okay.
Right.
Here's what's coming. I got to buy more boxes, cartons, caps, everything. And so we really had to,
Totally.
make sure we were in stock and had enough product. And then, how do you get it to promote correctly in Publix? I had to learn pretty fast on what's the right promotional schedule.
Right. Right.
How deep do you go? Do you get 50 cents off, $1 off, $2 off? Do you
Right.
promote for 1 week, 2 weeks? So you had to kind of get in that right rhythm, the right cadence, so your customer would
Crazy.
see you, but you didn't over promote and spend too much money, because you could quickly, now it's a
Right.
1,000 store mistake if you're like, whoa, let's do $2 off. Let's do $2 off, and like, oh my gosh, it's a
We're
$50,000 bill
broke.
back. You have roadkill. So,
Yeah.
those are some of the things that you learn pretty quick. What's the right thing to do there. I eventually had a broker that I hired to help me with the Publix account. A gentleman
Yeah.
called Doug Emery. He was a
Yeah.
fantastic guy, great friend, still I'm friends with him today. But he was
Awesome.
very helpful along the way to just navigate, like, here's the right, way to work with Publix. And then also, every year you had a review schedule, what kind of data you needed to show them. And he helped me with his company because they could purchase data. I couldn't afford the data. So he would help
Right.
build the
Right.
deck on, why Uncle Matt's was compelling, why we were bringing in more people to the set, and it was, growing the whole set. It wasn't cannibalizing the set, but it was bringing in
Right.
new customers to the set. It was a creative to his sales. It was a creative to his
Right.
sales base, and it was bringing customers in from other stores because of that. So
I
those kind of
love it.
things were key findings and key learnings that then helped me perform well in Publix. So then I could show to other big retailers, like, hey, this can
Sure.
work in your conventional store, this small little
Sure.
organic.
I love it. I
Hmm.
love it. I got to imagine there were so many little things, like even just like in my head thinking about the discounting and the rebates and I mean, all that stuff you're learning. You've already grew up learning the farming side, and now you're
Hmm.
talking about sourcing to other farmers and building that volume that you need to produce for
Yep.
that at that level. And holy cow, then you got to learn the whole retail marketplace. Like
Yeah.
that's a lot of stuff. And then logistics, shipping,
Yep.
packing.
Then you got to get it to all of their warehouses, Publix's warehouse. So now you're, in the logistics game in a bigger way. And Publix, they are a fantastic company to work with, but they are
Yeah,
operationally driven. So when they put a PO in and they have a delivery date, you need to make it. If you don't, like the buyer will tell you, we'll find somebody that will. So
totally.
you have to
Totally.
be very, just in time, operationally driven. They're also a fantastic customer to get in the beginning because they're very straightforward and they're very
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
It's, hey, you bill us this, we pay you that. And there's not many
Totally.
deductions. It's very straightforward.
Totally.
There's not a lot of shenanigans, which there's many
It's a big
retailers
waste of
that
time.
just waste your time. They want to try and ding you for all kinds of silly stuff at the dock, which is
Right.
ridiculous. Your
Right.
pallet's always bad. No, it's not. There's no way my pallet is always bad. Come on. So they're just little
Right.
money makers for some of these,
Totally.
shysters that are retailers. But Publix is not. Publix is very straight, very honest. I love them. So yeah.
Well, it sounds to me like your journey is a lot like other people, even though, a lot of the people we have on the show are, I think you're one of the first ag distributors that I've ever had on the
Mm,
show, but I love it because the lessons you just described are so congruent with the lessons that other people have to learn in their growth journeys, which is,
mm.
having the right people, the right
Yeah,
processes, the right tools.
yeah.
Um, I think those are the common threads between everybody's growth journey, and you
Mm,
had to figure them out in your vertical the same way other people have had to in theirs.
yeah. Yeah,
I love it.
business is business, right? As
Right?
they say. And so no matter which business you're in, you're going to have some real key underlying themes. And that's what
Right.
you see.
Love it. Well, Matt, this is fantastic. I for those of you listening who have been wondering about your own growth journey, I highly recommend you re-listen to this podcast again and again, because there are very few people who are in the same business as long as Matt has been in. You probably don't want to hear that, Matt, but it's
No, it's
true.
okay. It's okay.
26 years in the same biz, 25 years. That is an amazing benchmark, and just a fascinating. I got to believe that if we talked for another hour, we could probably talk about tons of different things we didn't have a chance to touch on right now, but all congruent with your growth journey. And I appreciate you taking the time today to share that with us.
Hey, you're welcome. And I'd love to talk to you again, no problem. And I love talking business. I love helping other entrepreneurs.
Right?
Small business is the engine that runs America. And if I can help
Amen.
small business run America, I'm all for you. So thanks for doing what you do. And I hope somebody helped them stay out of the ditch on their growth journey.
Right? I hope you've given them the juice that they need to keep going.
You're catching on, Todd. This is great.
Awesome, Matt. Well, thanks so much for your time. And for those listening, go click on the links below. Get yourself some juice. Go find it in your local area and juice up and support this awesome entrepreneur we've had on the show today. Thanks again, Matt.
Appreciate it, Todd. Have a great day.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. Matt is a super stud, and I love his product, his brand. Fun story about his growth journey, and I will say that we did have a fun post-interview conversation about some other stuff with his business that I think is totally possibly worth doing a second interview on. I just think this is fascinating. So if you are struggling to find your next move in your business and trying to figure out what the problem is you need to solve next, I highly recommend you check out growthreadiness.com. Go to growthreadiness.com and figure out what it is you're stuck on, because we have a free assessment there that allows you to understand what parts of your business you maybe don't fully understand yet, but need to know in order to get yourself to that next stage of growth. Check it out. Matt had family, friends, and consultants. You need somebody. And my guess is that we make this so easy to figure it out that you will start to see really clearly the places you need to put your focus, and it is on growth and scaling. So check out growthreadiness.com, growthreadiness.com. We'll see you later, and I hope you enjoy the show.